My name is Joe Peroni, and this is the Rise Above Project. There's been so many things that have happened this week, I don't even know where to start to do a show. I thought about 10 different shows. Then I thought, well, that's going to take too long. I can't do that. I actually have a job. So what I'm going to settle on right here is I want to talk about crime in general. I find this subject extremely interesting. At the top, we're in the middle of an election cycle here. And what you'll hear is that crime is one of the most important things we have to talk about. And in that sense, I agree, right? That crime, lowering crime is extremely important. But I just finished hearing this convention, and the same thing is being hit on over and over again. 90% or more of Republicans or conservatives believe that crime is increasing. Not only right now, in the last couple of years, but it's been increasing for decades. This is what they believe. And I'm not sure what they're looking at to actually believe this. So I really want to take a look at this because in our world right now, what we have is a lot of people doing marketing. They put on fake news. They show you things on TV. People watch it and they don't have critical analysis skills, so they believe it. So I want to look at some FBI stats and also Bureau of Justice statistics also to look at that. But before we get to that, because one of the points that I do want to make is, I don't think this is a politician problem. I think it's the populist problem because they either just don't care or they don't know how to look at actual data. So I want to look at this term. It's called bread and circuses. Now, this term comes from a Roman poet. So we're looking at this like 2,000 years ago. And he talked about it then. I think it's very important to talk about this today. In a political context, I'm going to read this straight through. In a political context, the phrase bread and circuses means to generate public approval, not by excellence in public service or public policy, but by diversion, distraction, or by satisfying the most immediate or base requirements of a populace, such as bread, as in food, or as in entertainment, as in circuses. This term was used to decry the selfishness of common people and their neglect of wider concerns. The phrase implies a population's erosion or ignorance of civic duty as a priority. I don't see who out there can disagree with this. So why would so many people, 90% or more, especially from one type of thought process, let's say conservative, believe that every time you leave the house, something bad's going to happen, that they live in fear, that crime is just going so crazy? Well, here's one of the reasons why. I'll play this real quick and then I'll get back into the show. This is typical news reports on conservative outlets.
Upon America, undoubtedly coming to a town or city near you.
Blatant and outrageous crimes occurring on a daily basis, coast to coast.
You're seeing that in Chicago and New York. You know, these Democrat-run cities.
There's so much crime in the city. I can't comprehend how people live there.
New York is now this dystopian hellhole of crime and violence.
Okay, and it goes on. This is the type of stuff that you see. This is not news. And I don't want to put anybody down, but people who watch this, they actually believe it's news. And it's almost like they're trying to do like a movie where they're trying to scare people to death. So let's start talking about some real stuff here. I know we're already four and a half minutes in. I'll try to make it pretty concise here and specific. So let's look at some stats. The latest numbers from the FBI. Gathered from 19,000 law enforcement agencies. I don't think you can get better numbers than this. Let's take it from January of 2024 to March of 2024. Somebody could say, well, it's not up to date right now. That's because we don't have numbers on that yet. But this is the latest numbers that we have. So let's compare January of 2024 to March 2024, take that segment and compare it to the same time frame 1 year ago. How is crime? Because we're being told that crime is just going crazy and you can't leave the house. Oh my God, you're going to get hurt, you're going to get killed, people are going to steal from you. Okay, so during that time, within the last year, violent crime has gone down 15.2%, murders down 26.4%, rapes down 25.7%, assault down 12.5%, robbery down 12.5%, property crime down 15.1%, burglary down 16.7%, car theft down 17.3%. So the decline there is in every single region of the United States. Now, if you go through, you have to understand I said region. You might be able to find a block or two or a place in a city or a town that the crime has gone up. But overall, in the region, you can't find anything different than the FBI stats. Over 19,000 law enforcement agencies will say and have shown. You can't even say the preponderance of evidence indicates. You can't say it. These are straight numbers. They prove beyond a shadow of a doubt crime has gone down in the last year. Now, we have Jeff Asher, respected criminal justice analyst. Here's a direct quote. It's plausible that this will be by far the largest one-year decline in crime in American history. So we have that. That's all what we call facts. So why do we see politicians talking about crime, and when we see these people jumping up and cheering that they're right and we need to do something, and it's probably immigration that's causing all this incredible rise in crime? Why do we see this? Go back to bread and circus. Because people are superficial. They don't know how to look at real numbers anymore. They don't care about anything. They typically eat garbage, unnutritious food that makes them fat and lazy, and they get just as fat and lazy with their brain. They don't really look at facts. So what you could say here is, well, okay, that's in the last year. But what about crime overall? Because what I would tell you is that crime has been falling since the early 1990s. And I've been saying this for a long time, not just because it's me. I'm very interested in stuff like this, and plus I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I am a social scientist, so I do care about these things. I've been following it for a long time. And you don't have to be a genius to take a look at any of these numbers. It's all there to be seen. So Joe Biden, well, I'm not shilling for him here. I'm just saying he has said, and he's taken a lot of negativity for it, he has said that the crime rate right now is at a 50-year low. So let's take a look at that, because he could be wrong. Well, in 1972, there were 401 violent crimes per 100,000 people. Okay, remember that number, 401. In the year 2022, there are 370 violent crimes per 100,000. Now, for those having trouble keeping up and not wanting to know real numbers, 370 is less than 401. And so the 401 is basically now, and the 370 is basically now, and the 401 was in 1972. Therefore, if one were to say that crime rate right now is at a 50-year low, you could say that that's true. It absolutely is true. That's correct. So then when we have somebody else that's an ex-president or former president running for president, and a lot of his followers and people that are around him say that the crime is increasing right now, that would be something else. That's called a lie. Let's continue, because we want to take a look at maybe there's holes in this argument that people just don't see. Well, here's something. The FBI data is from reported crimes. In other words, something happens to somebody, they call the police, there's a report, we know it happened. Or at least there's a report of it. Whether it gets solved or not is another story, but it's reported. So you could say, because a lot of conservatives say, well, it feels like there's a lot of crime. I have a feeling that bad things are happening all around me. Okay, now I believe more in facts than feelings when we're talking about crime, right? But let's just go with the feeling, possibly. So when we look at the Bureau of Justice statistics, what they do is they do self-report. In other words, if you're a person who's a victim of assault, but you don't call the cops, but you're still a victim of assault. So in this study, what they do is they get the data by asking people. And they'll say, yes, I was assaulted last year. And so they count that as an assault, and you hope that they're telling the truth. And that's it. So if it was never reported, but it is reported with the BJS statistics. Now, somebody's going to say, well, what about the murder rates and blah, blah, blah. Listen, come on, let's be fair about it. You can't self-report a murder because you're dead. Okay, so let's not try to overly do this here. But it is a good indicator of what's going on in terms of crime. So let's go back to the early 90s where the crime rate started to go down. Now, on the conservative side, they keep saying it's going up. But here are from the early 90s, we're talking about like 1992, from the FBI. They're saying that violent crime has gone down 49% overall, and it has gone down 59% overall in property crime. Now I could parse that out individually, but it doesn't make sense to do that because everything has gone down. Let's just say property crime, violent crime. So again, FBI stats say violent crime down 49%, down 59% in property crime. So let's go to the Bureau of Justice stats. Self-report. Now, this might be a hole in the argument, right? Well, not so much, because what they say is that violent crime has gone down 71%. So it's gone down even more. And lo and behold, property crime also down 71%. So you can't find any data that's going to back you up that says that crime is going up. You can't find it. The only thing that you can find is that during the pandemic, there was a blip up, obviously, only during the pandemic, and the crime went up. And then it started to come down. That's why, if you don't like saying that, in other words, during Joe Biden's time, let's say in the last year, it might be the lowest, the biggest decrease in crime ever in American history. Is he responsible for that? Well, you have to understand, crime was going down. During the pandemic, it went up, and so there was a big gap there. So when Biden was in office, or is in office, the crime started going back down after the lockdown was ended. So that went down. And so that's accounted for. But then it continues to go down as it was since the early 90s. So he's getting credit for that, but actually he's not getting credit for it because he's the only one saying that crime's going down. Everybody else around you in America and all these other things on TV, and Donald Trump just can't stop saying that crime's a big problem and it's getting worse, and you got to be afraid of all those immigrants, they're causing all that. So let me sum this up really quick. Okay? Please, don't be ignorant. Use your brains. I don't care who you like, who you don't like, if you're conservative, libertarian, Republican, Democrat, liberal. Don't care. But please, you're in the United States. Care about it. Stop being ignorant. Use your brain. The next time ever that I've ever hear somebody say that crime is going up and therefore I need to vote a certain way, and I'm going to vote a certain way because these types of people are causing the crime to go up, listen, you can't be any more ignorant. Please, never say that again. You have no evidence on your side to back yourself up, and it makes you look really ignorant when you use that as some type of device to say that your side is doing well because you need to knock down the crime because the people in office right now are not doing anything about it. It doesn't make any sense. Once again, let's go over it. The BJS and the FBI, both the most credible organizations in the world on crime, say that they both have seen dramatic declines in crime since the early 90s. And crime in the last year has been down at such a fast rate that we have never seen a decline in crime in that much, at that fast, through that amount of time, ever in American history. That's it. Those are the numbers. You say anything different than that, you got to check why you're really thinking like that. Anyway, my name is Joe Peroni. This is the Rise Above Project. Hopefully that was enlightening in some way. Please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.